My name is Parker Quigley. I am in 9th grade, and I'll be preaching a topical sermon. I am from Calvary Christian School in Hollister, California. And I'd like to tell you about my testimony. I was like super young when I got saved. I was 3.5 going on 4 in a month. I remember I felt in my heart like I wanted to get saved, and I think my dad sensed that because he walked over to the couch I was sitting on and he was like, "Hey, do you want to get saved?" I was like, "Yeah, I think it's time." And he walked me through it, and I was like, "Yeah, I believe everything." And then he just prayed next to me, and I repeated after him, and it's basically it. I want to do this because I believe I'm being called to be a pastor. I received the calling when I was 13 at a youth conference last year, and I believe that I wanted to start preaching now so that I can get a head start later. And okay, I'll be preaching a sermon entitled "The Purifying Effects of the Fires of Life," and I have 2 texts that I'll be kind of using as my jumping off point. Psalm 66:10 says, "For thou, O God, hast proved us. Thou hast tried us as silver is tried." And James 1:2-4 say, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Today we're going to be looking at how trials purify our lives as Christians. A woman was watching a silversmith refining a piece of silver. As she watched the silversmith, he held a piece of silver over the fire and let it heat up. He explained that in refining silver, one needed to hold the silver in the middle of the fire where the flames were hottest, as to burn away all the impurities. The woman thought about God holding us in such a hot spot. And then she thought again about the verse that says, "He sits as a refiner and purifier of silver," Malachi 3:3. She asked the silversmith if it was true that he had to sit there in front of the fire the whole time the silver was being refined. The man answered that yes. He not only had to sit there holding the silver, but he had to keep his eyes on the silver the entire time it was in the fire. If the silver was left a moment too long in the flames, it would be destroyed. The woman was silent for a moment. Then she asked the silversmith, "How do you know when the silver is fully refined?" He smiled at her and answered, "Oh, that's easy, when I see my image in it." God did not promise our lives would be easy. In fact, God designed the hard stuff in our lives to make us more like Him. We walk through the fires and the deserts and even the spikes. We walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and we walk through the storms of life. But as God said in Isaiah 43:2, "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee." Instead, God will use the waters, rivers, and fires to purify us to be more like Christ. One of the first things Christians gain through trials is faith. Faith is a hard thing to get at, especially in the culture today, where everyone is pushing you to have your own truth and your own identity. Everyone wants to believe in what they can see, feel, touch, and smell, instead of what some mystical God has for them in their lives. Like if I were to say, I can touch this podium, I can feel the podium, it's here, I can smell it, smells pretty. I think it's here, so it's here. But some mystical God that created the universe, it's just impossible. Like, why do I want His standards and His wanting for my life when I can do whatever I want with no consequence? But people don't see is that the only way to make it through life is to have faith in God. According to Scripture, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. It would be like if I said Taco Bell is the best fast food restaurant in history. It is. It is. Not brainwashing, but it is. And the person you're talking to is like, yeah, because you said it, I'll believe it. And he walks through his life saying, Taco Bell is the best. I've never tried it a day in my life because this stranger told me so. That's it. That's the one. And that's what faith is. It seems absurd, but it's really the only way to be, especially as a Christian. But Thomas, known as Doubting Thomas for his lack of faith, is a negative example of faith. He decided to do what the world does today. But what Jesus said is impactful for your understanding of what faith is. He said in John 20:29, Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. He wants us to believe without seeing because he knows that God is not seeable. God is something that you have to trust is there because you know that he's always going to be with you and for you. And you just have to trust what you cannot see, even though sometimes you just feel like you can't. We can also see not just the definition of faith, but the power of faith. Matthew 17:20 it said, If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. If you couldn't tell already, my dad took physics, and he told me that apparently you can't just move mountains by saying abracadabra. So that's a heartbreaker because that was a bucket list of mine. But you just can't move mountains. But with faith the size of this, you can move a mountain. And that is crazy because in a world today when we have so many mountains to move, so many hard things in our life, the one thing that we need is the power of faith and the God that stands behind you. God is pleased with you when you have faith. Hebrews 11:6. But without faith it is impossible to please him. The only way to please God is to have faith in him because he knows how much belief in God it takes to just walk with him through these hard times and how difficult it is. But trials also cause your faith to grow. James 1:2-3. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. If we can just grow our faith and decide that when I walk through a trial, that I will wait on God and I will decide to just wait for his timing and for his plan in my life, it will do you much good to just have faith and be patient in God's plan. Besides growing our faith, trials give us opportunities to choose satisfaction. The second thing Christians gain through trials is contentment. Many people in life want more. People want more fame. They want more money. Starbucks wants more stores because they have a Starbucks store factory. They're just like, and we have a Starbucks across the street from a Starbucks in Gilroy. And it's like, one out of the drive-thru and one doesn't, and I'm just like, come on, man. So one has business and one is going to be torn down in 10 years. So, but anyway, everybody wants more. Nobody's satisfied with just having what they so graciously got. They just want more. But according to the dictionary, contentment is a state of happiness and satisfaction. And one thing that we just cannot be is satisfied. In the world today, everybody has riots, they're starting fires, they're just doing everything, and everything's just going wrong because they're not satisfied. They don't like who's in charge. They don't like police officers because they're trying to do something good. Just everything, they're unsatisfied. But let me ask you this. Since when did our lives become about us? Because it seems to me like people are in unrest only because we think that it's God's job to make our lives perfect, and as soon as something goes wrong, we get angry at God like he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Our lives are about our worship, praise, and communion with Christ. So personally, I won't stress when things go south because God has the right to do whatever he wants. And one thing we do is think that God's just a genie and we can ask him for anything, we can do anything, we can just get more. But really, what he is someone that we can talk to and have a relationship with and just hold on to. Christians are, first thing is Christians are called to be content. In Hebrews 13:5, it says, let your conversation be without covetousness and be content with such things as you have. God wants us to like what we have even though it might not seem pretty. If we're just standing in the valleys, be happy that you're in the valley because he's trying to teach you something and he's trying to make you more like him. And the second thing, Christians gain a lot with contentment. 1 Timothy 6:6 says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. And James 1:4 says, but let patience have a perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. And if you're content and you have faith through any trial, you can just see that you're just, you feel entire. You feel like it gives you something to just be patient and to be loving for the God that has put you there, even though you may not like it. And if you just like what you have, then it is easy to just feel like you don't want anything else but what he has already given you. Not only can we choose contentment and having faith, we can also choose to ask God for strength. The third thing Christians gain through trials is that they learn to have peace when they pray. You cannot have a relationship without talking to people, and the same thing is with God. Many people want to and not talk to God at all and just push him aside. We don't want to pray to God, especially since we think he's the one that caused all of our problems. And he's the last guy we ever want to talk to, even though we can get strength from him to guide us through our trials. First thing is pray with perseverance during trials. Philippians 6:7 says, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God which passeth all understanding shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And it's true, and I've seen it before, that if you pray God for strength and just pray for the right thing to happen in your life through God's will, then you will gain peace and you will gain strength to just carry on when you think you cannot. Romans 12:12 says, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. And the word instant means to be steadfastly attentive unto, to give unremitting care to a thing, or to preserve and not to faint. And if we just give unrelenting care to such a thing as praying to God during trials and asking him for strength, then we will truly be able to carry on. Here's a quote from my interim pastor, Elias Martinez, who has showed us what prayer really does for a Christian. And prayer helps me to have a clear vision in my life, but it also helps me to put my vision in God's hands, and God helps me to fulfill the vision that He has placed in my heart. And if we just, prayer will give us the thing we need to just take off the blinders and the binoculars and to really see what's there, and to take off the tunnel vision and really see that God is helping us do everything. And He is always there. And I'll end with this story. Orlando Magic forward Jonathan Isaac was the lone player to stand during the national anthem on July 31st, 2020. As his teammates in Brooklyn Nets players and out to protest racial injustice and police brutality. Isaac was the lone player of the first 3 games of the NBA's restart season. He also didn't wear a Black Lives Matter shirt, and instead chose to stand with his arms at his back with his Magic jersey showing. The statement that he made the night before he kneeled showed his heart. Now, racism isn't the only thing that needs fixing, it's our hearts. Jesus has been the answer for me, and I believe he's the answer for the world. And he also said this before he stood during the national anthem. My feet firmly planted, I bowed my head, purify my motives, I pray, nerves relaxed, oxygen flowing freely through my body. And seriously, when we pray to God and trust God's plan, He will give us peace, security. That is what He wants. That is what He wants us to do. And because of his belief in God, he literally turned social media upside down. Through the trials of personal injury, COVID, and racial injustice, Isaac found the peace and contentment he needed to stand alone because of his faith in God. If you put your trust in God, pray to the God of the impossible, be content in God's plan, you will always see God's image in your life. Thank you.
Good job.